Hi guys, or should I say ciao. I'm Steph from IDRIVEACLASSIC Classic, and today I'm out in something stereotypically Italian. I'm in a Fiat 500 and oh my gosh, it's already stolen my heart. This car is incredible. And in today's video I'm going to show you around the outside of the car, show you what's on the inside, under the bonnet and what's hidden in the boot. And of course, I'm going to take you out for a drive as well. This car is gorgeous and I'm certain you're not going to be disappointed. So buckle up despite the fact we've got no seat belts, and we'll head on out now.
Before I tell you about the Fiat 500 itself, I thought I'd talk to you about this particular car. So she was registered in December 67 in the UK, down in Essex, which for those of you watching from abroad is down in the southeast of England. Now her life on the road wasn't plain sailing, because she came off in 1979 and didn't come back on the road until recent years. Now apparently it was all down just to first gear failure. So she spent a lot of time stored at the back of the garage, and when owner Carl first purchased the car, somebody had changed it over to a Fiat 126 synchro box, but gave Carl the original gearbox in a big wooden box and said, here you go. So he stripped it down, repaired and replaced. And he said that the original box, so the box that's in it now, is much nicer to drive on, and spoiler, I can confirm this is entirely true. Now that I've told you a little bit about this gorgeous car, I thought I'd tell you about the Fiat 500 itself. I'm talking about the proper Fiat 500, of course, not the kind you see on Finance Today being parodied on Twitter as a basic girl starter car. So the Fiat 500 is a rear-engined four-seater car which was designed to be a small city car and was sold between 1957 and 1975, and when launched was called the new Fiat 500 due to the fact it was replacing the 500 Topolino, which, spoiler, means little mouse in Italian. So the 500 is considered one of the first ever purpose-built designed city cars, and was definitely influential in the later decades of 70s and 80s when manufacturers moved into the world of smaller hot hatchbacks. And it's also worth noting at the time of launch, the Fiat 500 was one of the smallest cars in the world. And it was really popular too, and over 3.8 million was sold between 57 and 75, which hardly makes it surprising that they launched what I would consider the new 500, which we see on the roads today, in 2007 to mark 50 years of the Fiat 500. Now the car was designed not only as a city car but as an economical and cheap and affordable mode of transport for the everyday Italian citizen. A little bit like the Germans had designed the Beetle as the people's car, the Fiat 500 was designed to cruise through the smaller city streets of Italy and make car ownership a reality for not just a few but for the many. Now the first 500s were dead basic two-seater, rear hinge suicide doors, and had a top speed of 53 miles an hour, which meant that they didn't really meet sales targets. So Fiat went back to the drawing board and created two models, the Normale and the Economica, and both had an improved engine, and Normale now sported comfortable rear seating, wind-up windows and indicator controls. And changes continued, and Fiat played with variations, and from 58 to 1960 you could have chosen a sports version which had a 500cc engine, an additional few horsepower and an all-in-one metal roof, which was a great improvement. And before that they'd had a canvas fold back top, and it meant that the car appealed to a much wider demographic. So through the early to mid 60s, changes and improvements continued, with small tweaks like an opening sunroof, padded sun visors, a screen washer pump, rubber floor mats and internal ashtray. And the aforementioned suicide doors were replaced with front hinge doors in 1965, which allegedly weren't a big hit with some men who moaned that they no longer had unrivaled access to the sight of women's legs as they stepped out of the car. What an absolute time to be alive. Now with the door change came other small adjustments, such as the round lights became more angular and squared, and the larger windscreen, which improved the driving experience. And finally new changes came to play in 1968 when they made some smaller cosmetic updates, such as extra chrome bumper to rear and front, pleated upholstery to the door panels, a revised dash layer and a black steering wheel. And luxury was considered with reclining seats, carpeting, and the cherry on the icing was Fiat spelled out as a rear badge on the back of the car. Now the last of the 500s harked back to those simpler days with less chrome trim and a stripped back interior, but bizarrely an improved gearbox. And then production entered in 1975 and the car was replaced by the Fiat 126, which wasn't as popular in Italy as it was in the Eastern Bloc, and it led to the creation of the Polski Fiat, which was a Polish-built Fiat 126. Now, I think I've told you enough about the history, so it's high time we got behind the wheel of the car and we started getting her ready to take her out for a drive. And I'll show you under the bonnet and in the boot as well, because honestly, this is probably one of my favourite test drives. I just love it. Now, a little while ago, I went over to Italy and I went into kind of a makeshift car museum. So I already knew, because there was a Fiat 500 there, that the engine was situated in what we know as the boot. Or as some of you American viewers may know it as the trunk. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you where the engine is and I'm going to show you how it looks. But honestly, as you've already seen around the rest of the car, this car is of exceptional quality. It looks like it's just rolled out the showroom. So what I'm going to show you under here is really no different. So scoot in, we'll have a look. So this comes forward like this with this chrome handle. And as you can see, the engine is very small. And how small, you say? It is a 500cc. So now that we've had a look at that, why don't we have a look under the bonnet, and I can show you what's under there too. Now, as you've already seen from the engine bay, or should I say the boot / trunk, everything is very minimalistic on this car, and I think it's been very stylishly designed, but that's Italians for you. Now, as we have a look under the bonnet, you'll see that we've only actually got really a petrol tank and a spare wheel. I mean, I don't know how I feel about the crumple zone being a flammable liquid, but I'm just going to crack on anyway. And you've got your spare wheel tucked just down here, very neatly put together. But I think that is quite a common theme running through this car, is that everything is very neatly designed. So I think now that we've had a look under the engine, well, under the bonnet, and we've had a look in the boot / trunk, we've had a look around the car, I think it's only right that it's high time that we start the car up, hear how she sounds, and take her out for a drive. But I've already had a little drive, and I can assure you, you are going to love her just as much as I do. Now, before we set off on our maiden voyage, I just wanted to show you the pedals. So it's as you'd expect, accelerator, brake, clutch, but look where the pedals are. It's really bizarre, and driving it is a little bit strange as well, because you kind of expect all your pedals to be roughly in the same place, but it's not taken me too long to get my head around. And to be quite honest with you, I'm enjoying driving it so much. Well, on the bits that you haven't seen so far, it doesn't matter at all, and it's very easy for me to get my head around. Now, before we set off, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the gearbox. Now, this is a bit of a weird one because it's not something I can really show you, but I thought I would explain to you anyway. So if you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll have heard me talk about synchromesh, especially when we took the A35 out and we took the Morris Minor out, except that this is a little bit different to the A series that we took out in that it had no synchromesh on first. This gearbox has no synchromesh at all. That means it's not going to be like your usual drive. Every gear change has to be careful, it has to be considered. Now, I spoke to the owner and I said, oh, you know, it's fine, I can double declutch, and he said actually the best way to use this gearbox is to take slow and considered movements. So as you'll see me drive this car today, you'll notice that when I'm changing gear, I'm going incredibly slowly, because if you don't, you're going to get the dreaded crunch, which eventually leads to gearbox deterioration and just ruins the car. So if you notice that today, that's exactly why. I've already kind of taken a little bit of time to get my head around it, and it's not been too dissimilar to the knackered 948 gearbox on my Morris Minor, which is quite an advantage really. So let's start the car up so you can hear how she sounds, and honestly she sounded very different to what I expected, so hopefully you guys will enjoy hearing her too. Now, you may be wondering what these two little things do. I certainly did. So this one is the choke, and this one is the equivalent of your pull start. So we've got the key on the dash, so we'll turn that like so, and then we pull this up. Give it a bit of gas, and away we go. So I've been driving this car now for about 10 minutes, and my first impressions are really good. I've not driven a Fiat before. I've driven a modern Fiat when I got sent away with work. I drove a Fiat Panda, and to be quite honest with you, I thought it was boring. I thought it was unresponsive. I hated it, hated everything about it. In fact, it was the last modern car that I drove. Whereas today, as I drive around in this absolutely exceptional Fiat 500 from the 60s, I think, Fiat, where have you gone wrong?
this car is everything that your modern cars aren't. It's responsive, it's fun, it's quirky, everything's laid out inside. You've got everything that you need in terms of function without compromising on any of the Italian styling. And although it's got this 500cc engine, which quite frankly I expected to be like driving some sort of little snail car, it's actually so nippy. It's really pulling its weight, and you know, we've got 2 adults in it today and it's cruising along. We've been going up hills, not at any great speed, but we've been going up hills at a fair pace. We're keeping up with what I would consider town traffic. I wouldn't want to take this on the motorway, not in the slightest, because I think it's everything that you wouldn't want to take on a motorway. And like, there are no crumple zones whatsoever. So I think if you were looking for a classic that had a little bit about it in terms of safety, I don't think this is maybe the car. But honestly, this is just everything I didn't expect it to be. I didn't expect to fall in love like I have. It is beautiful. Now, one of the things I really love about this car is the sunroof. And that might seem silly, but in classic cars, and especially if you've never driven a classic car, it can get very hot. And in this car, I've been very lucky because it's got this amazing sunroof, which is also quite handy when you've got a beehive, because it means that my hair's not touching the roof. I'm cool as I drive, and yeah, I can get out and look stylish and not sweaty. Now, I really expected to struggle with this non-synchro box. So as I said when we were talking through the car before we set off, having no synchro mesh on gears means that every move you make has to be quite considered. You can't do a quick change down or anything like that. Every move has to be thought through before you do it, which I guess goes quite well with driving a classic car, because you know you've got your less effective brakes, and in this case with this non-synchro box, we're having to think quite far ahead before we make a move, which is everything from looking ahead for hills, changing down before you think you should have to, right through to, you know, as we're coming up and we're having to change up into gears. And yeah, I fully expected to be struggling with this, and I'm not at all. And that could be because the gearbox isn't warm, because it is one of the most flawless examples of a car that I've had the privilege of taking out for quite some time. But yeah, no, it's truly exceptional. Now, if you're watching this video and you're thinking, right, that's it, I'm done, I've decided what I want a Fiat 500, you are in luck, because although they're not the cheapest of classics to invest in, you've got a great owners club, you've got a great support network in terms of parts, you've got full 100% parts availability pretty much on these cars, which I guess is quite an advantage, because it means that you could drive it every day. And I think you could drive this every day if you had a local job. I think if you were going on motorways every day like me, you wouldn't want to take one of these out, because whilst it is very nippy around town, I wouldn't fancy my chances on the M1, especially now they've taken the hard shoulder away. But yeah, if you've got a local job and you wanted a classic that you could drive every day, or you're retired and you're looking for a car to take to shows that it's not going to be difficult to get bits for if something breaks, I would fully recommend a Fiat 500, because the way that it cruises and the way, oh god, just everything about it, if you can get in one of these guys, I would fully recommend it, because I can't stress to you enough how much I love it. It's so pretty, it's so perfect, and this is definitely one of those cars I've reviewed where I would say I would love to take it home with me. Now, you may be wondering, how easy is this car to drive? I have found this car incredibly easy to drive. In fact, this is probably one of my favourite cars that I've taken out on test drive, and not just because I'm like a micro or a mini car fan. Honestly, with cars for me, the smaller the better. It's just been so easy to get my head around, and it's that era that I always say that I love the most. It's the 60s, 70s era, and it feels quite a privilege as well to take something out that's so nice. You know, it's just such a nice example. It's been so well maintained, everything, right from all the parts, all the bits inside, the interior. It kind of, I guess this is what it must have felt like when you were in Italy or in less glamorous parts of the UK taking one of these for a test drive for the very first time, because this it's just stolen my heart. I really want one now. Now, if you're wondering where this sits in terms of car history, It's just one of those cars that sits in the box of iconic. So in Britain we had the Morris Minor, we had the Mini. In France you've got the 2CV. In Germany you've got the Beetle, and Italy had the Fiat 500. And after having driven the Beetle and the Fiat 500, I would definitely, if it's some sort of top trumps game, I would definitely pick the Fiat 500. And in terms of whether I would pick a Mini or a Fiat 500, watch this space, because I'm taking a Mini out this weekend and I'll be posting the review, and I'll let you know actually whether I would pick the 500 or I would pick the Mini. But right now I'm absolutely besotted with this car. I can't believe how nice it is to drive. I expected it to be a lot slower. I expected it to be, I guess I expected it to be quite rickety and feel a little bit like a go-kart that I was taking out. And I've been really blown away actually by how lovely it is. Honestly, I just can't believe it. I'm so impressed with this car, and I would actually put my hand on my heart and say I would recommend it to any of you out there.
A slightly unconventional goodbye from me, because I just wanted to show you what it looked like as I drove along, and also say goodbye to you guys as well. Now, I've had the most amazing day out in Carl's Fiat 500. It's been the car I didn't expect it to be. I think it's absolutely brilliant, and I would thoroughly recommend them to anybody. Now, if you've enjoyed this video as much as I've enjoyed making it, don't forget to hit like, and of course, new car videos go up every Wednesday and every Sunday, so don't forget to hit subscribe too. And if you're on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, don't forget to link in with me at IDRIVEACLASSIC. Now, until next time, take care and drive safely.